Hello there. We are now going to have a brief interview with Declan Shalvey. First of all, about the upcoming Portsmouth show that we are all aware of, and also his career. Declan, are you looking forward to anything in particular about the new Portsmouth show at the Guildhall, May the 4th and 5th?
Yeah, I'm curious to see what it's going to be like. It's going to be interesting to see a new UK show. I mean, every show is always different. There's a different kind of like feel and aesthetic and audience, and I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how it is. But personally, I know JP Leon's going to be there, and I'm a massive fan of JP Leon, so those are my motivations.
Yes, so you've got to be a fan to be in this, as a writer or an artist. And how do you feel you've come a long way recently with books that I would regard as personal projects, pet projects like Savage Town, for example. I mean, are you going to be promoting that a lot at the show? Do you think, or is it going to be all classic stuff, the All-Star Batman, the Moon Knight?
Well, there's no getting past the Moon Knights and the All-Star Batmans. I mean, those are the biggest things I've worked on, and they were. It's not like it's a black stain that I have to be ashamed of or anything, But it's a fair question. I mean, I think I'm always going to be pushing Savage Town because it's a thing that like you say, a personal project like that, you have to push. Batman sells itself, Moon Knight sells it. And the Marvel stuff I do, like I don't need to help sell Deadpool. I mean, I can a bit, but that. Those things sell themselves to a degree. It's things like Savage Town that nobody knows what it is. You have to kind of try get it in front of people so they can kind of check it out. Because how are they going to know about it otherwise? But to be honest, I mean, I'm not one or the other. I think generally, I would probably concentrate on the stuff that is creator owned, like Injection. Volume 3 came out a couple of months ago. And Savage Town as well. Like that's kind of the stuff because also it's easier to get those books because of the publisher. It's hard to get books from Marvel and DC because they have their whole system. But I would imagine I would concentrate on that stuff. But sure, whatever people are interested in, I'm happy.
So I mean, you did Moon Knight, which is sort of a little bit of a kind of like a gothic, dark version of Batman, if you can get any darker than Batman these days. I mean, did you find it to be very rewarding working with?
Yeah, it's so dark. It's like white.
Yes, that's right.
I mean, I think I've been working at Marvel for years, and like I was always kind of the guy who came in and replaced the bigger name. But working with Warren on Moon Knight I feel he basically made a portfolio book for me. Every single issue was so visually different to the rest that it just made me up my game and up my game and up my game, and it made me a better artist, it made me a better storyteller. It put me it gave a spotlight to me that I'd never really gotten before, to be seen as like the artist, not the second artist or the third artist,
the hired hand, sort of thing.
Yeah, which means so much of being an artist in comics is, and that's fine. It's just it's harder to kind of like harder to like create your own identity rather than always having to fight with somebody else's expectations. I mean, there have been loads of people who've drawn Moon Knight before, like Sienkiewicz and Tommy Lee Edwards, and stuff that I love. But getting to just basically like to do a whole new thing and just inject a whole new kind of sense of modern aesthetics and playing with the form, and it was just. To do a run like that is so rare, and I was so lucky to get to do it.
It's true. You are standing on the shoulders of giants a little bit. I mean, having checked the visual aesthetic, it's very cinematic what you put into it. It's quite a different interpretation, but I think it really works.
It was just Warren. I mean, whatever Warren was coming up with was going to be interesting, and even if people, I didn't know anyone was going to like it. It's easy to think about it now how much people like it, but I just didn't know.
I suppose when you're at this stage of your career, I mean, maybe not so much now, because you have been around for a bit, you are always going to be a little bit concerned, will people like it? But you kind of sort of do know that it's going to be quite a decent bit of work.
Well, I knew I was going to do my best, and I knew, but like, I remember Warren asking if I liked the first script. I remember just thinking it was just so interesting. I prefer to do something interesting that might fail than something safe that might not. And same with Savage Town. I mean, I could have made that more appealing to a mass audience, but I prefer to do something that stands out as being something a little different. And but whether it succeeds or fails, I prefer do that type of stuff than just kind of toe the line on guaranteed success.
So you need a bit more of an identity, and also you've got to be able to sort of pique your interest to do the work. You've got to be. It's not just about being motivated; it's about being passionate about it, and that is very. I'm sure that's crucial to you.
I mean, I've been very fortunate that any opportunity I've gotten, I've been able to kind of do stuff like that, like with Moon Knight and then with Injection, and even like the Nick Fury story I did, or writing Deadpool vs. Old Man Logan. All those things, I mean, it's not like I've had to go like, oh no, I got to work within the system, because I actually don't mind working with it. I actually like the system, because it's something I can work within, and if I don't like that, then I can just go do another stuff. If I was just working within that system, you know, you end up, you see creators getting like frustrated and angry and just complaining all the time. Whereas, you know, if there's a creative speed bump with working like with work for hire, I actually like those, because then you can kind of adjust, and it forces you out of your comfort zone a little sometimes. Whereas when you're doing creator and stuff, the only thing pushing you is you, and sometimes you don't push yourself enough. So I actually kind of I like the balance of having both. But I'm very lucky that I've ended up in that position. I can't say that's been my plan all along, and I succeeded in my plan. I had the right opportunity at the right time, and hopefully made the right decisions.
Such a great attitude, because as you say, the mainstream thing is, it's not just a genre, it's a format as well.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, the best writers and artists can subvert that format.
Yeah,
even
absolutely.
if it's not, you know,
it's been done so many times before. You think that like nobody can do something creative, but loads have done it before. You know, it's difficult, which is why it's hard to do it. You know, but and I'm not saying I have. I mean, I've only been trying to do my best. Maybe the work for hire stuff I've done is terrible. I have no idea. I can't judge it like that. But all I can do is I do think that, I think it's Ridley Scott said, "Give me a budget and I'll make you a film." Is in that, you know, sometimes having any option at all, like you can do with Image, can actually be a little bit crippling, because you don't know where to start from. But when you do work for hire, there's a certain space, and within, you know, you can't kill Deadpool. Okay, that's the thing. Okay, I can't do that. And once you know what you can't do, it's kind of easy to kind of come up with things that maybe you can do, or you know, play with expectations sometimes. I actually like some limitations. It helps from an artistic point of view too, because you generally get a brief. If you're doing a cover, it's got this is the story, this is the shape of the image. You know, the title's going to go here. Those things are things.
Sorry, some artists actually like. I mean, I think of Dave Gibbons and much, and they like the inflexibility. They like the rigidity in a way that they can work with that within that. There's no reason why you can't do that either. Did you think that Injection was, you do all the antecedents of Injection, maybe the Invisibles, maybe a little bit there, a bit of some Vertigo titles? But were you channeling any of that?
No. It was specifically. It was more, I would say, film influences. It was more. I think I said to Warren, I wanted to do a HBO show in comics. Basically, I wanted to do something that felt long form. That's something that was felt, because Moon Knight was so immediately kind of entertaining, which was great. But everything I'd done at Marvel had been like 5 issues or 3 issues or 6 issues. I wanted to do something longer. So I'd done some work at at Vertigo, Northlanders, and I really liked the storytelling I was kind of getting to do in those. So I wanted to do that. With Warren, and we kind of did that with Moon Knight actually, which was really satisfying. So I wanted to do more of that.
Yeah. So it's interesting. I mean, you are channeling. Well, previous generations of artists probably wouldn't have done this, because I mean, TV has come such a long way in recent years, and with the golden age of television, you're now basically looking to that as something that you consider to be an influence rather than other things.
That's a fair point. Yeah, I mean, like loads of people let's talk about film, but I mean, like I am a massive fan of like long form storytelling on screen. Like 6 Feet Under and The Wire and Deadwood and stuff. That's the stuff that I was saying to Warren. You know,
magnificent programs, absolutely, yes.
Yeah, you know, and though you're right, those weren't there 15 years ago. You know, so things have and also like the level of sophistication in comics as regards what we can do with silent storytelling. What we didn't do before was actually I love how silent so much of Moon Knight was. We never would have been able to do that 20 years ago. You wouldn't imagine there would have been we don't have to know there's to be narration or X, Y, and Z. I would have killed what we were doing on that book. And I love silent storytelling. I try to put as much of it into my work as I can. But the thing is, I didn't have to ask Warren to do that. Warren just did it.
You appreciate your development as a storyteller. I mean, being an artist is being a storyteller primarily. At the end of the day, if you can't do that, no matter how great the drawings might be, it's just not going to work as a comic.
Yeah. As
a pictorial sequential narrative, whatever you want to call it. I mean, we mentioned the pet projects, and we talked about the influences. You mentioned Roddy Doyle in a previous interview, how you wanted to channel him to do Savage Town. I mean, this is all about all your influences. They come from all over the place, and you're kind of processing it into something that is noticeably different, or noticeably what you consider to be your very own style. So, by the way, here's a question before we end up. Savage Town, the sequel. I've heard that there may be one.
Who's told you that?
I've heard rumours. I don't know. I remember reading about something that you may think about doing it.
I have 2 more books like planned, but frankly, the first book has to sell in order to legitimize the second book. I'd love to be all like, well, we never know. But like the book's doing well, and I'm happy with it. But I mean, it would have to do better in order to justify. If you're looking for a straight up answer, that is it. Like, I can't justify making a second book that wouldn't make money effectively. And I'm really happy with the book, and the reception has been like brilliant. It's just a tough sell, and it's tough to, a book about Limerick gangsters where they're talking weird. It's a hard book to market, and I've been doing everything that I can. But I would love. I mean, I have a whole plan for what would happen. But I just have to see, basically.
You created a space, though, and eventually, I think, it doesn't happen every time, but people are drawn to that eventually. I mean, it is okay.
And it's a graphic novel. It's not like, it's there, so people can pick it up at any time. So we'll put it this way, it's not such a wild success that we can just approve a second one straight away. If it does well over time, then maybe over time, but it's certainly not in the next year.
I think I read it in about 45 minutes. It's the most compulsive read I've read in ages. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I remember thinking, how could it not be accessible? For me, it was accessible.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's some language, some idioms I'm not going to be familiar with, but you can second guess.
That's exactly what I mean. Because I was a big fan of The Wire. Similarly, there's all this lingo in that show that you don't understand at all. But ultimately, you get the idea of what it is, and it becomes more immersive because of that. That's what I was going for with Savage Town, and it seems to be that did work for people, which is great.
Brilliant.
It's just I just know that I'm known as an artist, so pitching a book as a writer was a hard sell, and Phil is completely unknown in the American market. So I knew all those things going on, but I knew that it would be a more special book with all those things.
Yes, you're still very young. I mean, this is.
Not dying.
There's still plenty of time. I mean, this is something that you may have, depending on other projects. May raise your profile and it may lead to other things.
Yeah,
but
we just did a big exhibition in Limerick, like to kind of like launch the book there, and it was such a really great reception. And I would be really like, I would love to be able to kind of like maybe once every 2 years, like bring out not every 2 years. I would only really want to do 2 more books. That's like what it is in my head. But I would love to be able to revisit it and kind of a lot of the stuff that happens in the book, I know how it's going to kind of like spill out and develop, and I would love to have the chance to do that. But we'll just see. We'll see how it goes.
Absolutely. I mean, one last thing. It's just a case of what you've just said before. You have these ideas, and they actually come to fruition. They're actually there on the page. You've thought about them. You've had this image. You've had this idea. You've made it work. I mean, this is something that is key to the whole creative process, and also to fandom in general. This has to be something that is connected.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm very fortunate that like a publisher like Image was willing to even try that. Like I'm very fortunate that if I have an idea, I can pitch it, and if it it may or may not be approved. But I mean, it's just so wonderful that something like comics is it gets a lot of bad press for not being accessible or not being inviting, but there's no other art form that has this level of entry point that is just, if you make a book, it not definitely, but it could like I know what the chances are, but way better than any other creative industry, and that's the great thing about this medium.
Absolutely, it's a unique medium. I'll leave it there. I just want to say thank you very much, Declan, indeed,
thanks,
for everything, and we're really looking forward to seeing you at Portsmouth. And doing a panel or two, and basically bringing it to the masses. That's what we're looking forward to. Thank you very much.